Welcome to the Bible Adventures Love Science, the show where faith meets facts and curiosity leads to discovery. You'll join our three brothers, Chance the cheetah, Drexel the dragon, and Liam the lion, as they explore God's amazing world together, with hands-on activities and lots of laughs along the way. So buckle up, Bible Adventures. It's time to dive into God's world and discover how science and faith go hand in hand. The Bible Adventures treehouse was buzzing with excitement. Today's science adventure had turned their cozy hangout into a prehistoric playground. Plastic dinosaurs, rock samples, fossil imprints, and a big pile of homemade modeling clay were scattered across the table. Drexel the dragon, wearing a paleontology vest 2 sizes too big, stood proudly in front of a hand-drawn banner that read, "Fossils, God's Ancient Clues." "Welcome back to the Bible Adventures Love Science," Drexel boomed in his best museum tour guide voice. "Today, I'm your expert, and we're digging into fossils." Chance the cheetah stretched his legs and leaned back with a grin. "Are we going to dig up real dinosaur bones in the backyard? Because I definitely saw a triceratops behind the bushes yesterday." Liam the lion, already covered in modeling clay and leaves, shouted, "I'm a fossil in the making. Bury me in the couch cushions." Drexel chuckled. "Before we start fossil hunting in the living room, let's read our Bible verse. Job 12:8 says, "Speak to the earth and it will teach you." God gave us the earth and its history as a way to learn more about his creation. Drexel pointed to a fossil model. "So what's a fossil? A fossil is the preserved remains or traces of something that was once alive, like bones, leaves, or footprints that got buried and turned into rock over time." Chance raised his cheetah paw. "So fossils are kind of like time capsules from the past?" "Exactly," Drexel said. "Fossils tell us that living things used to exist, and they give us clues about what the environment was like back then." "To try something in the car," Drexel added, "hold out one hand flat. That's the soft mud from long ago. Now press your other hand down like a dino foot. Now freeze." That's how a trace fossil like a footprint might have formed. Liam whispered, "I left a fossil of my sandwich in the couch. It's been there since Tuesday." Drexel continued, "Fossils can be bones, shells, leaves, and even poop. Yep, coprolites. That's the fancy science word for fossilized dung." Chance made a face. "So we're learning from dinosaur doo-doo?" "Yep," Drexel said with a laugh. "Even dino droppings can tell us what they ate and where they lived." He picked up a fossil replica. "Some people believe fossils formed millions of years ago. But as Bible-believing scientists, we also consider a young Earth view. Young Earth creationists believe that fossils formed quickly during a global event like Noah's flood. Rapid burial under mud and sediment would have helped preserve animals and plants before they decayed." Just then, their mom, Olive the otter, peeked into the treehouse, carrying a tray of snacks and a fossil replica. "Did I hear something about the flood?" she asked with a warm smile. "Yeah, Mom," Chance said. "Drexel is teaching us about fossils and how they might have formed quickly during the flood." Olive set the tray down and sat beside them. "That reminds me of something really interesting. Have you ever heard that scientists found soft tissue in a dinosaur bone?" Liam's eyes widened. "Wait, dinosaurs still had squishy parts?" "That's right," Olive said. "A scientist named Dr. Mary Schweitzer was looking at a T-Rex bone under a microscope and saw what looked like blood vessels, red blood cells, and even stretchy tissue, all inside a fossil that people were saying was 68 million years old." Chance blinked. "But how could that stuff still be around after all that time?" "That's exactly the question," Olive said. Normally, soft tissue breaks down quickly after something dies, so finding it still preserved is very surprising, unless the bones aren't really that old. Drexel tilted his head. So how old might they be? Well, Olive said, creation scientists believe that dinosaurs were buried quickly during the flood, only a few thousand years ago. That would make the preservation of soft tissue much more believable. Liam gasped. So dinosaurs might not be as old as some people say? Olive nodded. And there's more. Scientists have even found carbon-14 in dinosaur bones, coal, and diamonds, things they say are millions or even billions of years old. But carbon-14 doesn't last that long. It breaks down after only a few thousand years. Chance raised an eyebrow. So how could it still be in those fossils? Exactly, Olive said. Some say it's contamination or radioactive stuff nearby. But scientists have tested for that, and it doesn't explain the levels of carbon-14 that they're finding. That's why some people believe those things are much younger, like thousands of years old, not millions. Drexel said slowly. So soft tissue and carbon-14 both seem to point to younger fossils. Yep, Olive said. We believe it lines up with what the Bible teaches about the earth being only thousands of years old and about a big flood that buried lots of animals quickly. Liam whispered, That makes dinosaur fossils even cooler. It sure does, Olive smiled. Just like Psalms 111:2 says, Great are the works of the Lord. They are studied by all who delight in them. God's world is full of clues, and he invited us to explore them, not ignore them. As Olive headed back down the ladder, Chance turned to his brothers. God's creation really is amazing. Whether we're looking at rocks, fossils, or dinosaur bones, we're learning more about the world he made. Yep, Drexel said, and the more we study it, the more it makes sense with the Bible. Liam stood proudly. I'm going to be a fossil detective. Then he thought for a second. So the flood could have been like a giant mud pie that buried everything. That's one way to picture it, Drexel said. It would have caused massive changes to the environment. So when we see sea creature fossils on mountaintops, we can wonder if those areas used to be underwater and got pushed up during or after the flood. Chance scratched his head. So fossils help us learn about what used to live and where. Right, Drexel nodded. Fossils found in dry deserts might show that place used to be wet. Plant fossils in the Arctic could mean it was once much warmer. Drexel pulled out clay and a leaf. Let's make our own model fossil. You can do this at home too. Take some clay, press the leaf into the clay or Play-Doh. You could also make a salt dough version that hardens into rock. Now remove it. Look, it's left an impression, just like how real fossils form when something presses into soft material, then gets covered and preserved. You can also do it with your foot if you want to make a human footprint, or a dragon footprint, or a lion or cheetah footprint. Liam looked up, his face covered in clay. I made a fossil of my face. Drexel smiled, shaking his head, and continued. Another kind of fossil is a cast fossil. That's when the impression fills in with minerals and hardens into the shape of the original object. Chance asked, So fossils aren't always bones? Nope, Drexel said. Some are molds, some are casts, some are carbon films, just thin traces of plants or animals, and some are even preserved in amber, tree sap that hardened around something like a bug. Liam gasped. So if I get stuck in tree sap, I might become a lion fossil? Hopefully not today, Drexel laughed. He rolled out a chart. And fossils help scientists make models. For example, if we find a fossil of a fish in a rock layer, we can guess that that area was once underwater. If we find plant fossils, we can guess what kind of climate was there. Chance nodded. So it's like science detectives figuring out the Earth's past. Exactly, Drexel said. Fossils don't tell us everything, but they're clues. And when we study them alongside the Bible, we can explore how God shaped the earth and filled it with life. Liam added, and dinosaurs too. Don't forget the dinosaurs. Drexel held up a toy T-Rex. We'll never forget the dinosaurs. He wrapped up the episode. So remember, fossils are more than old rocks. They're reminders of the living world God made long ago. Studying fossils helps us appreciate God's creativity and power. Chance clapped. I'm going to look at every rock in our yard now. Liam shouted, to the fossil zone, and ran out the door, clay still stuck to his face. The Bible adventurers burst into laughter and followed after him, ready for another adventure, one footstep and maybe a fossil at a time. Thanks for joining the Bible Adventures Love Science. We hope you had a blast, learned something new, and saw just how amazing God's creation really is. Don't forget, every part of science points to our awesome Creator. Whether it's studying the sky, learning about the laws of nature, or exploring in your own backyard, we can see how intelligently and creatively God made our world. See you next time, and remember, God gave you a mind for questions and a heart for wonder.